Rally Tuesday with Bitcoin climbing from 37,000 all the way to 42,000. Now, what does this mean for crypto's future? Well, we're joined today by Paul to talk about what this may mean, as well as look at the crypto market and specific crypto projects that you all want us to look at when you asked us to look at it in last week's video with Paul. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Crypto Rainn channel. I'm your host, Jay Rainn. If you like money and crypto and you're looking for a real investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family by liking this video, subscribing with that, all notification bell enabled. Special note, I, myself, and Paul, we're not financial advisors. We are crypto investors ourselves, sharing with you how we think about the crypto market and specific cryptos we like. Now, normally, I say I do own or plan to own most of what we talk about on this channel, but we open up on Thursday's videos to your suggestions of what you want us to review. And so if you want us to review next week some ones that you specifically like, put in the comment section, not in the chat section, but in the comment section, up to 2 that you want us to take a look at. Thank you so much for your suggestions. We look forward to getting through them. We also want to thank our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. There is a link below to our Patreon if it is of interest to you. Now make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show. Let's bring in Paul to join us.
Hi there. It's great to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, Paul, I love these days. In fact, the audience does too. In fact, several of our members, audience members, told us that this is their favorite day of the week.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah. Well, it was fun seeing Bitcoin take off last night. Now, this will air on Thursday. We're recording it on Wednesday.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So we were getting a little bit close to a break downwards. I mean, I'm still trying to hold a bullish view on Bitcoin and the whole crypto market generally. And I mean, it was obviously it's a bit frustrating when the market's in a range, but my overall analysis was this a massive, what we call a double top in Bitcoin? And I didn't think it would be because we had the panic sell all the way down here. So we printed the lows, we printed the panic lows. Market had a really good rally. I got excited and thought that we would go much higher, but only within this range. I wasn't calling for a new high. Then the market retraced a little more than I expected. So it came back into this range and now it's gone back up. And like last week, again, we had this chance of making what we call a double bottom pattern, and it sort of failed round about a really good resistance point. So, you know, and when I say a good resistance point, I mean it's one that has been marked out from prior price action. So this 45,000 level is key resistance. We've got this purple moving average, which I find works really well for capping the rallies and acting as support. So it came close to that. And it's done that twice now and come all the way back down again. So as it was going down, my question here is this some kind of triangular constriction that's going to see the market go down before then it goes up? Or will it just go up and then go in a range and, you know, consolidate a bit more, which is kind of the favored view either way, before we take a big rally to the upside? And there's a few moving parts to this this strategy. One being what's the dollar doing, the other being what are interest rates doing. And we're going to get some answers on those 2 points very, very shortly.
Yeah, it's fun to see how this evolves. Way back like a year ago, I started doing some analysis on what I'd call an elongated cycle. And so there was some theories that maybe in November, December last year, we would have a massive pump. We did have a massive pump in October that was related to Facebook making its announcements about the metaverse. But November and December were kind of fizzles. And so the other theory was that there would be these elongated cycles. And if so, just doing some math on how elongated the cycle was between 2013's or 2012's halving to 2013's peak, and then 2016's halving with the following peak from that, to when our halving was and when the peak might be. And it suggested that the peak of Bitcoin might be in May, actually late May. Now, that math, you know, opens up to like, it's not necessarily going to hit that time frame exactly. But I'm still operating under that thesis that we're having an elongated cycle and that we still have a massive leg of the bull run. And so far, that thesis is not disproven. In fact, it's continuing to operate like that will likely happen, and then it's just setting up for it. And all these pullbacks is just building some momentum. And this trading in this range builds some momentum, And then at some point, we have a massive Bitcoin breakout, followed by a Bitcoin dominance breakout. And then the money starts rolling into some altcoins. And for me, as I was seeing that, I was like, yeah, it's still trading right in line with that being the most probable outcome of what I think will happen.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we've seen a big panic. We've seen many people saying, I mean, I don't look at other channels and sentiment and from, what other people are saying point of view, but I could just tell from some headlines that when the market went down here and collapsed, there was a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to go to 20,000, it's going to go to 15,000. Some people talking about zero. I was talking to Manu Chowdhury, who's the CEO of DMA Link and the co-founder of Definity, and he was talking about another prominent analyst who was talking about it going to zero and how he was usually wrong. So the timing of some of the sentiment was pretty interesting at that time, and that's kind of like a pin in the ground for me. That's why I like those moments, because I in my mind people have really panicked at that point. Now that doesn't mean that we can't go low, of course, but it's just every day that it spends in a range is another day that kind of disproves the bearish strategy. So it has got more work to do. Let's be honest. I do want to see it break over this 45,000 level, and I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride to the new high. I think there's a consolidation to come, but there is still that bearish sentiment that's overhanging the market. And for me, as a contrarian, as you were in the property market, I like to see that more than everybody saying, yeah, we're going to go to a new high. The only slight fly in the ointment is that the Ethereum chart is looking very much more under pressure. And this is a much more triangular pattern. If you can focus on these highs going low and the lows going high. And I'm going to flick back to Bitcoin just to show you the difference. So if you look at these highs going down and these lows going up, if I go back to Bitcoin, you can see that this is flatter. So in a base, we'd expect this to be flatter and for it to break up and go higher. Given that we've had this sparking rally of nearly 10%, it's like 9% at the moment, I would expect that to follow through. It's very unlikely just to stop. I mean, look, anything can happen. Of course, it does with cryptocurrencies and any other market. But this is really lagging, and that's, for me, it's. I don't mind it's lagging the market a little bit, but it's got to break this pattern of lower highs for it to stay bullish. Otherwise, this could come under a bit more pressure. So I'd like this to be negated as a triangular constriction, because if it does play out, it will break this lower support line, because the prior trend has been down, and it will trade down to around 18,000 potentially before it then goes back up. So that's kind of scenario number 2, but I'm trying to hold in on a bullish view for the moment. And if we can take in Ethereum, if we can get through this 3,000 level, basically, 2951, and then back up to this 3323, which we talked about a few times, the chart would look so much better. So we've got to wait and see. So we're kind of in a holding pattern at the moment until it plays catch up, but it could do very quickly because these markets are volatile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's funny is when it starts being bullish, it climbs in bullish sentiment quickly as it breaks new highs, especially when there's been this long sideways trading. What happens is it finally hits numbers that get people's attention, people that have thought to themselves, I need to buy Bitcoin, I need to buy ETH. And then all of a sudden it breaks records, and that's when a lot of people follow in, making it usually overboom. And then as it overbooms, some people take profits and roll that into the undervalued, underpriced altcoins, which then cause the altcoins to really, really boom, which is why I'm positioned mostly in altcoins. Though I think Bitcoin is probably going to have a rally first. It's hard to time things exactly. If I had a magic wand and I sat at the trading desk every day, I'd possibly be more deployed into Bitcoin right now than altcoins. And then as it climbed, I would roll that all into altcoins. Because I take kind of a passive, I don't want to be trading actively. even every day, I'm already just positioned in mostly altcoins because that's eventually where the bigger growth happens during a bigger run. And so whereas Bitcoin might go 5x, some of these altcoins during that same or a little bit later period go 10x, 50x, or 100x.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, and then it fits my risk profile. Some people are pretty conservative and they just want to be in Bitcoin because they feel more stable about what it is. And Bitcoin is more stable than the altcoins for sure. Doesn't mean it's stable related to the bond market or the stock market. Is way more volatile than both those. But, it is the growing sector of technology that's changing the world. And I'm just taking some calculated bets that many of these altcoin projects will boom. And then possibly we'll enter a longer crypto winter as, I see pressure to raise rates because inflation is rampant. And as they raise rates, that's probably going to scale back the real estate boom that's happened, probably put pressure on the stock market to scale back as well. And if we've already had a boom in cryptocurrency, it'll put pressure on the crypto markets to scale back as well. Then we might enter a crypto winter, not just a cryptocurrency, but stocks and possibly a real estate market too.
Yeah, I think it would be synchronized, as you say. That makes perfect sense. And in terms of the dollar, expecting higher interest rates, the dollar index. This is the dollar index that we show occasionally when we get a minute, and it's been climbing. We were looking for it to hit 97 and then extend to 99 potentially, which it's done recently. But the Fed are going to be meeting very soon to decide what they were going to do with interest rates. The market a few months ago thought there was potential for a 50 basis point rate hike, but people like myself and Manu have said no way. They're not going to raise interest rates that much, especially with all the rises in commodity prices that we were projecting. But this was before the war, so given that what was going on now, with things even going even further, it seems very very likely that they will just do 25, and that interest rate support will come down. But the problem with that is that they have got a serious problem with, as you quite rightly say, inflation is still bubbling in the background. So something's got to be done about that. So that's why gold and silver and I think potentially cryptocurrencies will be increasingly attractive to the man on the street as a, and woman indeed, as a inflation hedge. Now, some people say that it's not an inflation hedge, it can't be an inflation hedge. But I think if the value of the dollar's going down and people are, they're printing more dollars, it by extrapolation has to make other things more valuable, whether you're buying real estate or anything else. So, rising tide lifts all boats, as it were. So that's why I also think that this will encourage cheaper money and more speculative investments by the market. So that's great news for the altcoins.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems to be playing out that way. Of course, being in the crypto market day to day, what's funny is your average investor gets exhausted. Your person that's just wanting to make really good returns. They have a primary job. A lot of the subscribers to this channel and myself, I started 4 years ago. Many of my subscribers I only started the channel a little over a year ago. And so they're just looking to make some investments on the side and have that grow much more than they could in other places. But watching the market every day can get exhausting, especially when it takes longer than you expect and it wears a lot of people out. And so you're even seeing the numbers of people watching crypto stuff on YouTube falling. And we analyzed the other day that, or shared an article that, the number of searches for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and metaverses has fallen tremendously, which is usually actually the best time to be buying.
Yeah.
It is hard for people that have been plugged in for a while and they've maybe even invested all their funds and then it's fallen to below what they've invested in. It makes it hard to be patient, but patience pays off huge. And something that I'll have analyzed in yesterday's video is about the correlations between 2020 and 2022, because I remember the same feeling in 2020. and waiting for the market to take off, and knowing that we were likely at or near the bottom of the crypto market, and just when is this bull run really going to kick off and really going to start. And it is hard to be patient, because though we understand the importance of patience, when you watch the crypto markets day to day, it seems like 2 weeks in crypto passes like 2 months. Like, things seem to take forever, even though it might only be 2 weeks.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. I mean, I think you've either got to be a very short-term trader and be looking to get in and out on a day-to-day basis, and there's plenty of volatility for that, or you've got to try and sort of look at it just week to week and not try to get drawn into every single price movement, because that's actually possibly a good indicator of having a too big a position in the market. If your positions are swinging around to the extent where it's affecting your mood, then it's not a great sign for a trader to be. You don't want the market dictating your mood. So I know obviously we all want the market to go up, and that makes us all happy. But in traders' terms, like you've said many times, there are opportunities when the market's retracing, and you've got to be ready for those as well.
Yeah, what does have me excited is now we're all the way in March, and we're almost to the middle of March, and that I do think this elongated cycle, at some point crypto takes off, and then as it does, more money chases the pump, and it leads right into what I think is going to happen. We'll see if it does play out that way. As investors, we just take strategic bets, or we place bets on likelihoods, and we try to find likelihoods where our chance to win is higher than our chance to lose. And if we do win, that the profits will exceed the losses. But none of us have a crystal ball. And so that's the bets that I'm making, that we have this other leg coming, and that it's going to be really, really big as Bitcoin breaks 100K. That then a lot of that money then flows into altcoins, goes big, and then possibly we see a big retracement. And possibly we see the pain setting in of all the money printing, right? Because all this money printing has to lead, in order to keep a stable environment, to high interest rates. High interest rates usually scale back real estate prices, usually scale back prices on stocks, and also on cryptocurrency. And if you're positioned poorly, meaning you're highly vested in these assets that have really, really appreciated, then the pain's really severe. But if you've taken profits while you're ahead, and you're very cash liquid, you love it when that kind of pain comes, because everything gets cheaper again, and you can then accumulate more for cheaper prices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So should we go across to the audience picks?
Yeah, let's jump right into them. And
Okay.
thankfully, one of our audience members suggested XRP, and it's a great time to look at XRP.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting one, because this tends to divide a lot of people. Like, some people, I've heard people say that this is going to be the future, and it's the one of the only good ones to be buying, and I've heard other people saying completely the opposite. So I've got no opinion on whether that's true or not, because I don't look at the market that way, and I let people who are much smarter than me tell me whether that's that's going to be the case. But they say look what people do rather than what they say, and what this is doing is, in terms of technicals, what the market's telling us, it thinks of it, is it's in a really nice triangle, and this is in a this could be a big rounding base. I mean, normally it would be at the end of a trend, but I'm going to just describe it as a rounding base, just for the purposes of simplicity. But what's going on is you've got these lows that have gone all the way down to here, and now the market is trending up. So big consolidation for the last few months, but this should normally break out to the upside. So anyone who's been watching gold will know that we saw this massive triangular constriction, and then look at the breakout, and very aggressive to the upside. Now, as you quite rightly say, the percentage chances of this happening might be favored to the upside, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to go up, because nothing in the markets is guaranteed, and it's just a question of what's the probability. So the probability here, I would say, is we continue in this range for a bit longer, because it doesn't look like it's ready to go quite yet, but it's going to trade in this range a bit longer until we get to the midpoint, and then it should break this resistance line and then start a new trend. And you'll see that new trend beginning, usually by really strong, what you describe, Jay, as green candles. So strong moves to the upside that rush into this resistance line, then start to tell us that the market is getting ready for a bigger breakout. So we're not seeing anything like that right now. We're just seeing the market range trade. But it's still, given the broader market, quite a positive thing. It's not in a bearish trend. It's not down here where I've got my cursor. You know, it's holding in quite nicely. So the swings are percentage terms massive, but so's the overall trend, and that's kind of par for the course for these these altcoins. So I would be saying it's like 70-30 to the upside, maybe even a bit more actually. But I think pressing the button on buying it would come perhaps a bit later. So it's a wait for now, but it's a positive wait.
Yeah. For me on XRP, I like XRP. I really appreciate that the team behind XRP has chosen to fight the lawsuit from the SEC against them. And I feel like they're in the right and that they'll probably win. And that will decrease the US SEC's power to kind of bully crypto projects into being treated like security. And so I think that's good for the whole crypto community. So congrats to them for fighting it. And I think that they'll break higher when they do break out of that sideways trading pattern. And they'll break quite a bit higher. I don't presently own any XRP. I have in the past. I hope their use case comes to fruition. There's a lot of competition for that space, essentially remittances. Now they can replace like the Swift banking system, in that the Swift banking system is very expensive to be able to send funds from one bank to another, and XRP makes that very much cheaper and puts it into the pennies category instead of the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars moving large amounts of money around. The reason I don't hold any XRP just has to do with our potential ROI. Is it a pretty safe bet? It's a lot safer bet than a lot of the stuff that I'm in, but their potential returns are a lot less than some of the potential returns that I'm looking at. So do I think they're a great project? They're a fantastic project. And I really appreciate what they've done for the crypto community by fighting that lawsuit. They could have just settled and made it easy on themselves, which then would have continued, the SEC continued going after individual projects, and in a way kind of shaking them down for some kind of fees. Oh yeah, you can keep doing what you're doing, but you launched an illegal security, pay us $100 million in fines, and then you're fine. To me, that's a political shakedown. And so anyway.
Yeah, it's really interesting that part of perhaps what's going on with these disruptive technologies is it's a kind of marketing problem more than a technology problem, because if more people knew what you could do with this and indeed some of the other coins that we discussed, there's some fantastic technologies that are being developed. It's just that people just don't know about them yet, and when they do, they'll realize that there is a massive disruption coming to the whole banking system, which is probably why there's been a little bit of resistance from certain corners.
Yeah, that's absolutely why. And there's a bigger fight coming. But as Joe Biden said in his executive order right at the beginning, his first two paragraphs, which we stepped through on Wednesday, step by step, what the executive order outline said, that like 13 or 14% of Americans are using cryptocurrency in one form or another. So the genie is out of the bottle, and the politicians are kind of treading lightly on it, because no politician wants to ruin his and their party's re-election chances. And so they're treading lightly around it, because this is a new technology sector that can change the way finances and other things are done, and we should let it grow and flourish. And my opinion is the regulations should be light, because governments don't make growth happen. They can create an environment that fosters growth to happen, or they can create an environment that stymies growth from happening. So let's see which way the U.S. proceeds with that. It's not 100% clear from Biden's executive order. The first part seems pretty bullish. The middle seems way less bullish. And then a few statements at the end that seem more bullish for their outlook on what they want to do. So government, Ronald Reagan said it pretty well. Government can get in the way or out of the way.
Very well put.
And
Usually in the way.
usually in the way, right? And that's what regulators do. We got to make sure everybody's safe. Well, let me ask you. They say, oh, cryptocurrency is fodder for corruption and scams. I don't know about you, but still, old ladies get scammed using, and the elderly get scammed all the time out of their fiat using the banking system, still to this day, right? So are they saying that because scams happen that cryptocurrency is bad? And if so, then, fiat currency is bad because scams happen. That's just an argument that they use to sell people on. We want to take complete control of this and be able to control it, because then we don't fear what we can control because we're in control of it. But governments, that, in other words, that means the government gets in the way of growth so they can make sure it happens exactly how they want it to happen. And that will greatly slow down growth. What I don't think U.S. politicians understand is this genie is way out of the bottle. And what they can do is they can get massively in the way of its growth in the U.S. What that's going to do is it's going to give all these other countries around the world a huge advantage. There's countries like El Salvador, Portugal, other countries that have been very crypto friendly. What's going to happen is crypto will absolutely flourish, and this technology and what it can do will flourish in other countries, including Africa. And the U.S. will fall far behind if they don't get their policies out of the way of the growth, or just smart policies that put little checks in, but that don't stop the growth from happening. We'll see which way the U.S. goes. It'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. I think the banking sector will probably be looking to play catch up on it, and when they do, they'll invest large, and then they'll put pressure on the government to allow the regulation. But we will see. I'm not an expert on any of
Yeah.
that side of it. I know there's very smart people out there, but I just kind of work through the sort of bigger picture chess moves sometimes in my head and think how it might work. But yeah, that's I think we agree about the potential outlook. So if we should move on to perhaps the
Yeah,
next
let's
one.
jump over to OAI, which is the ticker symbol for Omni People Driven, which they changed it from OMN to OAI about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, maybe. And so what we're seeing here is a lot of what we're seeing in projects that launched last year, and they're going through their vesting schedule as their tokens vest in a slow market. Those tokens often get dumped on the market, and we're seeing savage price decreases continue on their token.
Yeah. Yeah, so unfortunately, the trend here is still to the downside, or is to the downside, um, which is good news for anyone who's not in and looking to buy something that's a great technology. Again, I'm not an expert in that side of things, but the overall trend here is the only way I can really view this, and it's still going down. I think there's a few technologies out there that are doing a very similar thing, and it's frustrating that the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater when the market becomes very risk averse. So the question would be, if it's going to turn around, where will it turn around? That's a very difficult question to answer. So I have to say, wait until I see one of two things. I either see a reversal pattern, or what I think would be a spike low, which is when the market panics and then it rallies very quickly. So we could see a kind of longer drawn out base, which would take a bit of time, or we could see like a final panic and then the market going back up again. So for the moment, I can't really say it's a buy, even though I could probably be tempted by a good story, and I'd have to kind of be careful on my, in terms of, like, I think anybody who gets into something has got to get into it for something that's they're comfortable with. So I'm comfortable with technicals. So I might buy something and think, okay, if it goes below this level, I'm going to get out. But I don't mind buying something higher up when the trend is moving in my direction. So, if I've got faith in this and I think it will go much higher, then I will let the low play out and then try to ride it as the trend's going back up. But that also means that there'll be some really smart people who've got in at much better levels than me. But I have to do it that way because I'm not going to be looking at every single technology and interviewing the CEOs and finding out the background that takes a long time. I just want to wait until the chart looks good. So it doesn't mean it's easy to use charts. There's still work, as you can see. We're doing a lot of analysis and trying to work out what the market is thinking here and how they're investing. But there are, you will definitely have an advantage if you know more about the underlying technology and the people behind it. But in the end, we have to trade the price. So, for me, it comes down to that. The price has got to be moving up. So at the moment, it's still a wait. But if I was to take a short-term buy, it'd be through this 0.02 level. That would indicate a short-term base, but only a short-term base. So, I couldn't say much more than that because we've got a big trend line coming down here. That would really have to break as well before I would get a little bit more excited about longer term prospects. So there's your trend line. When it breaks that, I would start to, be looking for a longer term base for this.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where the bottom is. The old saying is it's like trying to catch a falling knife and not get cut. I like Omni. I did an interview with Manny from Omni, who is their CEO. They also have a good team. They're making kind of a social networking platform, both for your phone and for the computer, where you can own your own social media and your own posts, which can be NFTs. And there's a few projects that are competing for this space. And so they're very driven and dedicated and focused. And I like that about them. I think they're just going through the token vesting woes combined with a flat market or even a decreasing market. So as their tokens vest, because of this new idea of how to do token vesting that's come about really in the last 2 years, where they really squeeze that initial market cap down, but then the pre-sale investors and other people who invest in them early get some of their tokens month to month. That as those tokens vest, a lot of those tokens are getting dumped on the market, bringing the price down, then down some more, and then down some more. At some point, this turns around, and what happens then is people look back at the price and they're like, man, I wish I could have bought when it was so cheap. Now, I looked up the ICO price on Omni, and it looks like it is below ICO price. The ICO price was 2 cents, at least according to ICO drops. And so it's way wrong here. It's looking at a different Omni. It's like, wow, return since ICO 107x, because it's thinking Omni's price is $2.14. Well, they did change their token or their ticker symbol because there was another Omni, and clearly whatever's grabbing the data is getting that confused. The Omni that's trading $2.14, because they're trading, as we were looking at on the charts here, all the way down at under 2 cents, which is below IDO price, which for me starts to be really, really attractive, right? I like it when the vesting happens this way, even though I already own a bunch of Omni. In short, it would have been nice to wait and buy it all this cheap. I still say that it still looks like the vesting probably bring the price down even cheaper. And so for me, it's a wait. Not that I don't like today's price. I like today's price on the buy, but I'm not seeing indications that it's bottomed out yet. Like, I'll look for that strong spike down and maybe even put some buy orders in case there's a strong wick down, like you said, that stake in the ground, because then I can just pick up more for the same amount of money. Do I think this will turn around? Yes. When? I don't know. It might be 2 weeks from now. It might be 2 months or 3 or 4 months. But I like today's prices a lot. I just think it's going to get even better. Maybe that's the optimist in me. By better, I mean cheaper. Even though I already hold a bunch, I know, like, this seems counterintuitive. Already hold a bunch. Why would I want to get cheaper? Well, so I can accumulate more for even cheaper, bring down my average cost. And I'm okay with waiting for what I've already purchased in it to do really well. If I'm lucky and get cheaper, and then I can buy some more and then do really well.
Brilliant. Okay, so the next one I think is
Fantom.
Yeah, Fantom. So this is doing okay. I like this chart. It's in an upward trend. I think we featured it a couple of times. Look, it was trying to break out through this 350 area, which was a massive resistance point, and I think that probably happened as Bitcoin potentially was topping out, or the rest of the market was, turning from perhaps overly bullish back down to the kind of range and bearish sentiment we've got now. But it's holding in pretty well. So we've got some really good support here, right on current levels. So it's quite a critical time right now. So this level here at 1.25 is a prior low. So you can see how it's come down to there, it's rallied, and it's carved out this channel, this sideways trading channel. Now, if it breaks that, I think the next buy point would be down at 0.9596. And whether it will hold or not is not very clear. But I would err on the side of being bullish because the overall trend is doing so well. I would get, believe it or not, I'd get more excited about this once it's turned around and it's moving back to this 3 level, even though that's kind of more than twice the price of where it is now. Because for me, it's the structure of the chart rather than the price that's important. And if it's moving up towards this area here, that's been marked out as really key resistance. If it comes back to it, I think it will break it. So what do I do here? It's either, a buy, sell, or wait. And I still think I'd have to wait just a little bit longer to see if it gets a bit cheaper, as you say. But I would get very interested around this 0.96 area because there's some good resistance, good support that should be that should hold. And given that the overall trend is up, I think that would be compelling enough for me to sort of jump in with a small position and then look to add it as it goes back up again. Now, if in a couple of weeks we're holding over this current level and it didn't break this low here at 1.22, if it holds that, then I would get even more excited about this breaking up to the upside and following, what I think Bitcoin will do, which is a range and then break higher. So it's doing very well considering the rest of the market. I think this is a great upward trend, and so I'm going to go with that. But as I say, this is key support here, and it should really hold it. If it doesn't hold it, then we drop to the next level. If it breaks that, then we're looking at a bit more of a problem, perhaps a greater retracement, but that's like 2 or 3 chess moves down the line, and perhaps we can talk about it then if it does that. But that would be my strategy for it.
Yeah, perfect. I did put a little bit in on this. It is at a key point, right? Is that going to be a double top and we're into bigger retracements, or is this a level that people will look back and say, oh my gosh, I should have bought some at that. It pulled all the way back to its previous low. And so I put some in, and there is some stuff going on in the project fundamentally that Andre Cronje is leaving Fantom. He was one of the coders behind it and a really strong personality in the crypto space. And he just doesn't like the level of responsibility. He just wants to program and create cutting edge technology code. And so he had too much on his shoulders. And so he just essentially shrugged it off. But there is a big team behind it. So as part of what brought this back even farther is a lot of worry. But he wasn't so involved in the day-to-day stuff anymore anyway. And so I think it's a narrative that scared some people, brought the price down cheaper. But I feel like other people are now running it and continuing to develop it anyway. So his departure isn't, I mean, it's not a great thing, but it's not a disastrous thing either. So sometimes it's episodes like this or things like this that bring things back to a really good price. And Yeah, so I have some exposure to it, not a lot, but at this price, I was like, I'm gonna take some exposure to it out, or put some in anyway.
Right. Okay. So the next one is the Morpheus Network. So interesting. I don't know what this does. Actually, we've got a little bit of detail about it, which I think perhaps you'll be speaking about. But from a technical point of view, it's interesting and is still in an upward trend. We've seen a big consolidation here, so it's been going effectively sideways since kind of February last year. So that's like a year's worth of sideways price action. Um, Trading down to this low, which is massive, absolutely massive support. So that this low here, you can see how it is married with this resistance up here. So resistance, resistance, support, support. So this is really your crossover point. You don't want it to break anywhere below there. In the short term, it looks like it's coming down a bit more. So I think it may well trade into this range. But I think given that the trend has been up from all the way back down here, 18th of March, around March 20, I would be erring on the side of the bullish side. But I'd have to wait a little bit longer just because it's still trading in this downward trend. And that's fairly aggressive given the market's gone up, this particular candle here. But I think it will get into this area and then turn around and go back up again. So what I would use as a kind of tripwire for me to say buy would be if it breaks this downward trend line, which has worked really well. It's been resistance, resistance, and it's just holding in. So if it goes sideways, it can break that. So it allows it to consolidate and stop falling to give a kind of buy signal for me technically. And it would also negate this as it's not a double top, but it as two major peaks. So if people are tempted to buy, I can see why they might want to look at it on the approach to the support because it's such good support and it should hold. So the temptation is, if it's a good technology, this is a good sort of buy zone. But I'd have to wait for it to turn around or show some strength before, personally, I think the technicals are good enough. So that's why it's a
Yeah,
wait for me.
great suggestion by one of the viewers. What Morpheus is, and I'll share my screen. I've got it pulled up here. Blockchain powered supply chain, Morpheus Network's global supply platform. And listen to some of their testimonials here. We look forward to using the Morpheus Network platform to simplify compliance with its automated document generation features. So this is the kind of stuff that blockchain really can improve in the actual business world. Dan and his team have been very helpful in assisting us in integrating this into our process. Because of the complexity of our compressors, our clients need to keep track of where the units come from. Morpheus Network's geo-tracking QR codes have allowed our clients to monitor fulfillment with greater transparency than ever before. That's exactly the kind of stuff I like to see and the bets I like to take. So I haven't had a position in Morpheus yet. I'm going to take one. Even though it might get more attractive, that's okay. I have no exposure to this and I want some. And it's all the way at $5 before. It's at 86 cents now. So it's on, it's like an 83% off price for me. That discount is big enough. As far as markets, you could trade on Kucoin, Gate.io. I like both those exchanges. Gate.io, if you don't have a login and you use our link below, give you 20% of your own trading fees back. And we also have a Kucoin link down there as well. Don't think that allows us to give you anything back, though. Kucoin is a great exchange and I really like it. Gate.io will give you some of your fees back, and it's on both those exchanges. So I'm going to pick up some of this myself and have some exposure to it. The market cap's only at 31 million, which, if I'm right on this other leg of a bull run, something like this could go to 500 million market cap, might even go into the billions. And so I just see it as a lopsided risk. It could go to zero, but you could put a small amount in it. A small amount might 10 or 50x, or it could go to zero. but like, so it's an outsized potential reward for the risk that I feel like I'm taking. And so I'll put some in. It won't be a huge position, but this is pretty strong bet in my opinion for my own portfolio. So yeah, thank you for this suggestion from our viewers. I
Yeah,
like it.
thanks. I'm going to keep an eye on it. That's it's the use case is perfect for the technology that's there. It's absolutely, designed almost for exactly what it's there to do. So, interesting, very interesting stuff. So the next one we've got is EJS, I believe,
Yep.
unless I've got the wrong one. So
EJS
Engine Starter,
Enjinstarter.
right? I like the name. That's interesting. So yeah, so is this the right one? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, interesting name. I'd love to know exactly what this is about. What the technology is. Sorry, I'm going to have to say that this is still a wait because we had the potential. We've seen this happen so many times where the market goes straight up, then it does this consolidation, and it curves, and then it breaks up again and goes exponential. This one didn't manage to do that, but some of the other coins when they start off, you get this flurry of interest, and they just go parabolic, and it would normally do it on this type of chart pattern, which is an ascending triangle, but it didn't. So what happened there? It was like almost like the engine started and then it stalled. So the trend has gone down since then, and I'm obviously there's got to be some fundamentals behind it, even if it's a good technology. So for me, that is just overhanging the market. So it's got to be negated. So how could that be negated? Well, at least it's got to break this downward trend line before we can start getting positive on it. So there's a few, and this is like a very good trend line because it's respected it twice. In the very short term, it is building up a little consolidation here. Some might say a double bottom pattern. Well, that's where you make one low and then it comes back and makes another low and breaks up. It's on the flat side of a potential double bottom. So when what a double bottom is the market saying that it's trying to buy the retracements, and there's usually a bit more volatility. There's another type of pattern called a pennant, which is far more compressed, and that's looking a bit more like a pennant to me, and that's when the market stays in a very compressed range and then continues down. So it's looking more like a pennant than a double bottom, but I can see that it's holding some support here, which in terms of time is it's not done that for a while. Last time it did that was around here, but unfortunately it's still legged down again. So where all the action for me I think was happening was around this point 042 area. It needs to break this trend line. That's a given. I can't say buy it until it does that. Then where I get much more excited about it and interested is where it breaks this point 42. So because there's really good support there, support took a while to break it, and then it came back and hit it again. So I think there's a lot of activity around there. So if we could blow those positions out by it moving up, then I think technically it would look much more interesting. But for the moment, it'd have to be a wait.
Yeah. For me, this is a wait, even though I like this launchpad. Now, on the flip side of that, launchpad tokens in a declining market don't do very well. They do pretty bad. In an uptrending market, they do exceptionally well because you have to hold those tokens in order to be able to get onto buy some projects on launch at their initial offering. And so Engine does have some really good projects that launch through it. If you're holding Enjinstarter tokens, you can participate in it as a launch pad. And so I feel like probably it's going to retrace some more. And then as the market takes off, these tokens are going to do really, really well. Though I do think it's going to bounce off of that resistance. It's going to come down lower is my guess. So for me, it's a wait, even though I like the leadership behind this project. And I think it's got a great future in the short term. But the immediate short term, I think it's going to come down some more before it then does well.
I think what's really interesting about all of this is all these coins we're going to look back in like 5 years and say, God, do you remember when it was down there? And it'd just be so interesting because there could be household names that we're talking about coming up, but obviously the technology is so new, and the people out there are just so ahead of the curve. It's really interesting. And of course, yeah, not everything's going to work. That's just part of the course. If you go back to the beginning of the dot-com boom, there were
Hmm.
so many companies that were trying to compete for the space of technology, and it just comes down to a few in the end. But they also consolidate, and the big tech companies bought up all the other technology, so that can all happen as well. So it's really exciting. But yes, as you say, it's at the moment the trend is still down, but very interesting to even hear about this stuff. So another one to keep an eye on. So the next one and the penultimate I can see is this one, which is Gala.
Yes, and speaking of companies that'll likely be a household name down the road, Gala probably will be
Well,
one of those companies.
that's really interesting because I'd never heard of this until the viewer very kindly put this in as a suggestion. And I really like this. So this for me is a buy, I'll say straight away. And the reason why is because this is a really nice upward trend. You can see it's relatively smooth. Okay, so it's gone downwards here, but we've got this triangular constriction, which gives me a kind of a floor of support, shall we say, with which I wouldn't want it to break. We've also got another support area around here. Let me just put that in for you. So this horizontal line here. So I think even if I'm wrong about this, if it comes down to here, there should be good support. Okay, if it breaks that, I'll be bailing out. I'll pull the parachute cord and say, okay, I got it wrong. But I like this as a constriction, and I like the overall trend. So as it stands right now, if it can break this trend line, and it starts to do that when it gets over 0.29, so 0.3, so it gets through 3 cents, it's showing some strength, and then we can start talking about it breaking into a new high. So if you compare this to some of the other charts, which are sort of going down, this is going up, and you've got a decent technical pattern. And this was a lovely technical pattern here. This was like a high, what's called a flag formation. Market goes up, makes like a flag, and then goes up again. So this is something very interesting about this, which I'd really love to hear. But for me, basically, technically, it's looking good, and so it's a buy.
Yeah, I like it. That little ching sound was actually me making a purchase on it. So for me, it's a buy too. Um, I like this one. I bought some earlier and it's retraced some more. I like where it is in this pattern. Gala is producing a lot of blockchain games and very good blockchain games, and lots and lots of titles. And so they did a big conference, which I didn't go to a few months ago, and they put a lot of money into that conference. And I think they're doing a lot of things right. And so, unfortunately for me, it's only 75% off, whereas some other things are on 83% sales and 95% sales. But that's good. I think this is one that, in coming 10 years, unless like they get bought out by Microsoft, which could happen, they'll be a household name. And if they get bought out by Microsoft, then we'll see what happens to the token price. Could make it worth a lot more, could make it worth less. But at least for the short term, it's a risk that I'm going to take. So, yeah, cool.
Fascinating. I better get some as well.
And I did go ahead and pick up some Morpheus as well.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
VRA is the next one.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Yes, of course. Sorry. Yeah. There's one more. I thought that was the last one. Yeah, but we have got one more. Excuse me. So VRA. So that's Veracity, by my reckoning. And what have we got going on here? So this is structurally still in a consolidation phase, and in the short term, we are correcting. So the market made a low here, went into a rally. Would have liked to seen that extend, but it's come back again and then taken the low out. So the context is it's still in this falling trend. Where I'm a little concerned is this volume, these volume numbers. It's like, what is going on here? Why is these volume numbers so high? That's really out of keeping with all the other price action. So either there's some heavy selling, in which case the price action's doing pretty well, given that there's some heavy selling, or somebody's trying to accumulate, and at the moment it's difficult to work out why the volume would be so high, yet the moves are so relatively small. So that's perhaps a red herring. So I don't know what to read into that. That's unusual, but I can only go with the overall direction of the trend, which is downwards. But this isn't downwards in a new trend; it's downwards in a range, and this overall trend is up. So I would like to see this this hold in, and I would like to see uh, this particular. There's an inverse head and shoulders here, which was triggered around 0.013. So I think if it gets to that level, that would be a good initial buy point, and then below that 0.0079, that's really good support as well. So my feeling is it needs to correct a little bit more, and then it will be a buy. But for the moment, I'd have to wait. And I think this could be inferred by what happens with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes sideways, then this most likely will be lagging, but will do a very similar thing. So I think longer term, there's some good upside prospects here, but we just have to ride out this consolidation first.
Yeah, I've been averaging into this over the last few weeks, and I'm actually up from my average in price, which is nice, but just by like 10% or something. I like this one. It has to do with advertising on the games and other things that come out, and so I like their use case. I like their market cap. If we look at CoinGecko, we can see that their market cap's at 100, just over 100 million. About 25% of their tokens are in supply. My guess is more tokens over time will continue to come into supply. But I just like their positioning and their narrative, as I think blockchain's narrative will come back in. And as people get concerned, as interest rates go up about the stock market and also properties, a lot of money flows into crypto, at least for a short time. We have this overboom in crypto. And that's what I'm positioned in this one for, is a lot of people focus on crypto and they'll say, oh my gosh, advertising crypto, that narrative makes sense to them. And projects like this have a chance to do really, really well. At that point, I'll be taking profits on the way up, because whenever you do get a really, really big run, that run doesn't always last for forever. And so, buy low and sell high is my primary philosophy, or buy when it's boring. And it's a little bit boring right now, though. I think a lot of that buying activity that you were showing on the charts is some people, some whales, scooping it up while it's cheap, but not trying to make the price increase too much, right? They're just trying to keep picking it up while it's cheap. And my guess is they have some information that perhaps we don't have. That's just a guess. I don't know that.
Right. It's definitely out of the ordinary. So we shall see very quickly, because usually when you get that sort of activity, the price action will move. I mean, it shouldn't take a month before we find out. It should take, perhaps weeks or less than that. So
Yeah.
I think it's one to watch, just because I think that's either an error on the exchange or printing of the volume figures, or something is about to happen. So we shall see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. So, well, for you in the audience, are you ready to be a rainmaker and join the Navy SEALs of crypto to level up your crypto game? I know this contrarian approach we talk about, coupled with fundamental analysis and add in a lot of patience, and it works very, very well over time. As we mentioned before, none of this is financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We are investors ourselves, talking about what we like, the way we see it, and how we think about things. But as always, do your own research to draw your own conclusions. If you haven't already, consider that all notifications bell, and then just tune in when you see our videos pop up. We do a live stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You are catching the Thursday episode, which we have Paul from Definity, who's been nice enough to join us and share with us his time. He has 30 years experience in trading price and analyzing patterns of which way price will likely go from here. And we love to bring him in because it adds a whole new avenue that I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, and that he is, to inform our audience of additional ways of thinking so that you can have as much information as we can give you. Also, there's an additional VV live stream on Wednesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And then we have shorter videos throughout the week that sometimes launch. So thank you so much for joining us. Remember, no rain, no gain.
Came into this space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to studying to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.